It's Tuesday night. It's USfanTV, the usual Tuesday night 9 p.m. Eastern show. We have a special show for you, a very special edition of this show. As usual,
we need a violin or some chimes there.
Yeah, some
very special edition.
The music that would play when Danny Tanner would talk to the girls at the end of Full House. I am Pat. He is Chris, and we also have with us.
I am Chris.
Bobby Warshaw of former FC Dallas, former year. Played in Europe. He played for his hometown team, the Harrisburg City Islanders. Played with the youth national teams. He writes for Howler. He's got a podcast, which is awesome. He does all those things. He is Bobby Warshaw. Bobby, welcome to our stupid show.
Oh, man, it's really exciting to be here.
So you wrote a book that we're going to talk about in a little bit. It's outstanding book. We're going to talk about it. I'm going to get all you guys to go buy it to make Bobby a lot of money.
I do want to interrupt quickly though and say not only was Alex first in the comments tonight, Alex is the first viewer of the show who we've actually met. So
yes,
what's up, Alex?
He stopped us last night on Michigan Avenue. That was cool of you, Alex.
That's awesome.
So MLS All-Stars tomorrow. I'm going with the 6-year-old boy who's excited to go because he gets to see Real Madrid. I don't think I've told him that Ronaldo's not playing yet, but he'll find out the hard way maybe. But we were talking about this off air. I think I'm excited for it. I'm excited for the spectacle of it, I guess. But I have a hard time getting excited for these all-star games. Bobby, when you were a player, what did the guys think of these things? Was it something you really, really wanted to be in? Or were you happy to get the break? Or what were players' takes on this thing?
I mean, I was the one that put Chris Seitz for all 11 positions. So I might be the wrong person to ask. I mean, I think there's a general thought of conspiracy within the locker rooms where you're pretty sure Don just picked all 11 spots anyway, so it didn't matter what we did.
Conspiracy with MLS? What?
I always kind of wondered if that's what was going on. But yeah, the team always seems to end up exactly how they want the team to end up. The NHL a few years ago had, what was it, John Scott, the old goon, make the...
Yeah. And
that was a good one. They tried to get him out, right?
They did.
They tried to not let him do it.
They tried to not let him do it, and I think he got sent down or something like that, and then he ended up winning the MVP of the game because the guys were so determined to screw over the league for trying to get him knocked out. But you don't see that in MLS. It's usually, it seems like the guys, the stars that they want to have out
MLS
there.
Players are just so vanilla. I've been thinking about this a lot lately. MLS just has no, and the personalities we have, Kai and Dom, just don't seem that likable right now.
No,
MLS just doesn't have enough personalities for this. That's why it was cool to see all these guys get pissed.
Yeah, Kai was really pissed about that True Sox fine the other day, and he should have been because seriously, what if half of the league wear those things at this point, and they're only
everybody in the world. Yeah,
it's insane. But yeah,
that was awesome.
It was awesome. It was awesome. Yeah, I enjoy him. I mean, that's pretty awesome to stick it to the league like that. Dom was at the Men in Blazers thing last night. He was pretty entertaining on stage with those guys. He was sticking it to Peter Vermes pretty good.
He was actually being honest.
Yeah.
That's what I enjoy. That's why, as much as I always kind of laughed at Eric Ronaldo when he was a player because he was so whiny about everything. But I love, until he got busted by ESPN for trying to pick that fight with Jim Rome, I loved him as an announcer because at least he says what he thinks. If he thinks the ref's crap, he calls it. If he thinks the team's playing like shit, he calls it. He doesn't back down from his thoughts.
Yeah, it's so we're going. I don't know who to cheer for.
Do we think that's true? Do we?
What was that?
Go ahead, Bobby. Oh, you just freeze. I think you just froze up there. You started to say, do we think that's true? And that's all we heard. Oh, I think he's breaking up on us. I don't know what's going on there. So, yeah, I don't know. The stream broke. Uh-oh. Chris, are you still there?
I am here. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right. I am present.
All right. Well, hopefully Bobby is able to...
Jermaine?
The stream is able to reconnect here in a second. But
present. Jermaine, present.
You guys
are
back.
All right, Bobby's back. You started to say something. You said, do we think that's true? And that's all I heard.
That the only reason Dom left the national team is because Vermes called him back?
I don't know. I feel like
we wondered about this.
With two strikers coming in, Bruce maybe thought that you're not going to play, so I'll send you back. But Dom, yeah, if you didn't see it last night, said that Vermes called him back and then sat him and then, traded him. So he seems.
Which we can agree, Vermes got the best. Vermes totally fleeced him, right? Why is nobody saying this?
That's a lot of money.
Oh, yeah.
It's a lot of money for a guy that Vermes can probably replicate in a 2-year span, right?
You would think, yeah. And I guess it's Orlando fans are excited because of his ties there and everything, and he's a fun player. He's an exciting player.
He was there for like a month and a half. This whole thing makes no sense to me. The way everybody's talking, am I right? I mean, I like Dom. He seems to be a good player, a decent dude, but what are we talking about here? He was there for 12 games or 15 games.
So here's a dude I want to ask you about because I know you know him somewhat. He trained with you guys in Dallas. Kellen Acosta. I think you say Kellen Acosta, which you know him, so you're probably right.
No, I messed it up. It's Acosta. It's just
is it?
I'm like super white and bad at these things.
We said before the Gold Cup, we think this dude could be like the next superstar, like maybe even Pulisic good. And then he doesn't have the best Gold Cup. And you wrote a piece sort of identifying his one weakness, hanging onto the ball in tight spots, that he doesn't really have that in his game. And he's so good in other areas. I mean, am I overreacting to how good he can be? Did the Gold Cup just set me straight and maybe he's not as good as I think he is? Or is he as good as I think he is?
2 parts to this answer. One, I think we all just messed up post-Mexico game, right? He was a 22-year-old who had a single good game in a really tough place in Azteca, and we just overvalued him, right? We shot him all to the top of our charts at the number 8 position, said he was the next Pele, and that was our fault, right? It was just us over getting too excited about one game.
It's what we do.
It's what we do, totally. It's totally expected, but also our fault. But the second part to that is, yes, I would argue that his ceiling is as high, if not higher, than Christian's for multiple reasons.
That's a strong statement.
Well, here's one thing to remember, right? One thing we don't get right about Pulisic is Pulisic just made the life decision to go to Germany at age 16. We have no idea what happened if Kellen had made that decision or many other players, right? So the fact that Christian has done this well, past performance should not indicate future success. And here's my question. Listen, I'm Christian. When I went to my first ever training session with Harrisburg City Islanders, Christian's dad was the assistant coach. Mark Pulisic was my favorite player growing up. So nobody cares, wants Christian to do as well as I do. But when we watch his game, what is he really good at, right? He's really fast. He has really good acceleration. He's a pretty good dribbler, but I just don't see parts of his game that make me feel like he can go to the next level beyond those skills. Whereas maybe if he's got the right coach and the right system, he'll keep doing well at Dortmund. But I think that's super dependent on who his coach is. Whereas Kellen, just to me, is a skill set that translates better up the ladder. That's way longer of an answer than you guys wanted.
It makes sense. Yeah. I mean, I don't know what Kellen's background is. If he even could have gotten a passport to go to Europe before that age. So, I mean, he probably did what the best thing was for him, but but yeah, it's, you love what you see from Pulisic. I've loved what I'm seeing from Kellen. I would rate Pulisic higher in my view right now, but you've said the ceiling is maybe higher for Acosta, which is, I don't know, exciting because I am afraid. I'm afraid of Pulisic going to a place, either the new coach at Dortmund not working out for him, or he does
everything. Yeah.
Does go to Liverpool and suddenly I'm scared it's going to blow up for him.
The Liverpool thing scares me more. Like should all those dominoes fall, the Liverpool thing scares me more than like the Dortmund thing. I think there he has, while sure, you can't say past performance dictate future results or whatever, he still has some kind of history there. He has something to stand on there. When he goes to a new squad, sure, should he go to Liverpool? Sure, Klopp knows him, but knew him a few years ago.
Yeah,
I don't know. I feel like there's a lot more questions, and if he is bringing him in to kind of replace somebody like Coutinho, I mean, I hate Liverpool, but even I gotta say, Coutinho's fucking amazing.
He's so good.
God,
he's so good.
I hate Liverpool, but I can't hate that guy. I mean, it's sort of like Steven Gerrard. I couldn't hate that guy either.
Yeah. This thing with Pulisic's new coach at Dortmund, this is one of the, we don't realize it now, but after the fact, we'll look at this as one of the most important things that ever happened in American soccer, right? If this guy doesn't like Christian, and all of a sudden Pulisic's on the bench for 6 months, then he steps down to Schalke, then he's just another player on Schalke, like we have half a dozen of, right? Like in the moment, it's really hard to understand what a significant thing this new coach is.
Yeah, you can say that better than anybody, because we'll talk about this later when we talk about your book, but there are moments in your book where little decisions, little things happen that change the trajectory of your career. And so like that's like, what if you had gotten along with your coach at FC Dallas? What if he had rated you higher?
I ask myself that every day.
Your whole career could be different. So I wonder this with so many players. There's so many little tweaks, whether it be, we know about injuries, but whether it's an injury at one point or it's a coach who just doesn't like you and it sets everything in motion. I wonder how many great players slipped through the cracks and how many guys got pushed through that weren't as good as, they really, we thought they were. That's,
you could write a world best 11. Literally, you really could. This is what the Pulisic, no matter how good Christian is, most coaches would not have played him, right? He just had one coach who wanted to play young players, had the support of the board, believed in Christian's skill set. Like that was a 1 in 10 chance that guy would have played him. Not taking anything away from Pulisic. It's just the way it is with 17 and 18-year-olds. So we can't forget how fortunate we've been to this point.
Yeah, it's true.
No, that's absolutely true. But I think that does bring up the point of, being then whatever he's 2-3 years younger than Acosta. I think it does then give the chance that at least for say the next 2 to 3 years, he's got kind of that upside to, he's still got those years that he's growing. Whereas Acosta, I think if he doesn't get, maybe if he doesn't get the move this summer, does he move in at the end of the season? Like, Dallas doesn't want to sell him right now because they get a serious chance of making another run at a cup. Do they want to sell him this summer when he wants to probably move? It's good for him to move this month, so he has the preseason, or at least maybe a week or something before the regular season to kind of get some reps in front of a coach. But if he moves in, say, January, what does that do to his chances of playing then in the 6 months leading up to the World Cup?
That's true. Did you guys ever read?
I think that was like a rambling question or statement, whatever.
Did you guys ever read the statement from Tottenham on why they signed Yedlin?
No,
basically,
I don't think I did.
One of their scouts came out directly and said it. He's like, we signed Son, who's Korean, right?
Yeah.
60% for marketing, 40% for soccer, and it worked out. That Yedlin fellow was 100% for marketing. So at the time, we were thinking to ourselves, man, great move. Yedlin's going to a big Premier League club. But Kellen, there's so many forces beyond soccer. And if that happens to Kellen too, we could be in big trouble. Or Pulisic, right? We could be in big trouble.
He didn't play.
We have no idea if Liverpool actually.
Yeah, I don't think either of us were a fan of the move.
It's so
because
that shows the disconnect between the people doing the signings and the actual coach. Then, in that sense, is that why sign him if you're not going to play him? It only works from a marketing standpoint if he plays. So,
well, that's the point, to sell jerseys and to build the American market.
Yeah,
the same reason all these teams are selling 80,000 person stadiums.
Spurs are trying to move up to the big time in terms of like a global brand. So,
I hate Tottenham. Let's talk about your book. You wrote a book, which is, I've never written a book. It's something I've always wanted to do. When the Dream Became Reality. So I'm familiar with your work, and I think you tweeted it or something. I'm like, oh, I'll check it out. So I read the, you get it on the Apple bookstore, and they give you like 20 pages or something. So I read the first 20 pages, and I am absolutely sucked into this thing. Like other soccer books, I'll read. I generally don't like books by soccer players because, like I told you off air, it's like, I read the first 5 pages of Mesut Ozil's book, and I was like, the writing was at like a 4th grade level. It was based off the German translation, and then it's nothing but building his brand. And like yours is like, you're immediately vulnerable. You're signing autographs for some children after a loss where you just hate yourself and what's going on. And you're like hating these children that are smiling at you and excited to meet you. And I'm like, that was the point where I'm like, okay, click by. I am reading this thing. This is.
You know what's funny is that the intro. I was worried the intro came in too hot too.
Oh, it comes in hot.
You know, I think when people realize that feel like they're reading a soccer book, they're like, "Oh, it's gonna be," because this is about the soccer culture. It's gonna be friendly. It's gonna be positive. Everyone's like, "Oh, it's in a motivational book." I was like, "That's not the way I would categorize this."
It's very dark. It's like,
yeah.
Do you know what it's like? It reads like a novel at times, and not like a true, nonfiction book, because you got little cliffhangers at the end of the chapters, and it's like really in your head more than.
It makes me so happy to hear.
Any sports book I've ever read. So yeah, definitely check it out.
Yeah. It makes me so happy to hear, because that's what I wanted. I feel like there's so many good nonfiction books out there that are just boring. Isn't it the worst when there's a book you just have to slug through? You're determined to finish it, and it just takes so long. And I just wanted to write a good, interesting story. So that makes me happy that it felt like that.
Succeeded. And you published this thing yourself, is that right?
Yeah, I did it all myself.
How did that go? That must have been.
Yeah, there are a lot of dark days. It's pretty scary a lot of the time. But you know what? If you read the book, I wanted to get away from agents and bosses. And I was like, what did they do? One thing I learned at the end of my career, which you get from this, is there's nothing an agent could do for me that I couldn't do myself. So that's kind of the approach I took.
Yeah, there was that one point where you had a buddy make a call to the Red Bulls to get you a workout or whatever it was, and your agent was telling you that he had called everybody and he hadn't. Have you talked to him since writing this thing at all?
No. And to be honest, that's the one relationship that made me upset to put in there, and that I hadn't talked to him about it. I hadn't even called him out at the time. I just kind of passively let it happen, and then we split ways about a month after that. So yeah, that's the one. The coaches are what the coaches are, but I had a good relationship with Aaron, so that's the one relationship that makes me sad about this.
You also, and not just the soccer, but you talk about like the relationships you have with girlfriends and stuff like that. And, you guys have to be selfish, right? I mean, you got a short window, you've got to focus on yourself. It's got to be brutal just, talking about having relationships with other people. And that was another thing I liked in the book, is how vulnerable you were with, fucking up relationships with different people. But again, I don't want to go back and write that book about myself, because I've done the same things. That had to be brutal, bringing up that sort of thing and to make a truly honest book like you did.
Yeah, that was the worst chapter to write. Going back to the emails with the ex-girlfriend sucked. Yeah, that wasn't fun. I actually did. I did get a text message about that chapter. That wasn't great. But yeah, what do you want to say? Like, I was determined, as you said from the outset, I've read a ton of soccer memoirs, a bunch of autobiographies by these big players. And there's just I originally wrote the book with the premise, I want to talk about these things like relationships, the sexuality. There's a chapter on racism that just got cut at the end because it didn't really fit in the storyline. There's just these things that professional players don't talk about often enough. And I just said, I want to write that book. So the book originally was these 4 or 5 random chapters, the 4 or 5 crazy stories, and that's it. I ended up adding the intro and actually building a storyline kind of at the very end. So I'm happy to hear that turned out. But yeah, just as professional players, this relationships and these things are very real topics we don't talk about often enough.
Yeah, like we talked about earlier, you get to Dallas, and this is something I've always wondered about professional athletes, because you get to Dallas and you are the best player, like most professionals, everywhere you ever were to that point. And you get there and suddenly, the coach doesn't like you all that much. And you had some high moments, and there's one pass that you made that you justified well, that basically sealed your fate in Dallas, and you didn't even realize it at the time. And that's gotta be terrible, because this has been your life, your whole life is getting to this point and becoming a professional soccer player. And then it's not everything that you think it is. And I know we've got some young people who watch the show who probably want to be a professional soccer player at some point. And I would encourage you to go read this book, because it'll give you an honest picture of what you might be getting yourself into.
Yeah. The thing about that coach and that pass is I spent a lot of time, and this is the same thing with like Jürgen Klinsmann. It might be the same thing with our president right now. Like, you just can't rationalize people that are bad at their job. Right. You know, like the guy just like,
Yeah.
I spent a lot of my life trying to make sense of someone. But if you're just not good at your job, if you don't know what you're doing. So that pass, to this day, I try and find some inkling of what I should have done differently. But the game was literally in its last 5 seconds. I had to get the ball. Nobody else wanted the ball. I did everything right. And I made a bad pass, but if I hadn't had the balls to go for it, especially this fucking guy, sorry, getting me fired up when I think about this. This fucking guy was all about like mental strength and pushing through it and being mentally. And here I am manning up, the rookie, when everyone else is scared, and I'm like, give me the ball. And I go for it, and I get punished for the rest of my career. Here's my caveat, right? Which I might have been more. I'm not actually sure I was good enough. I mean, looking back, I wasn't good enough center midfielder. In MLS, you would not have won a championship with me at center mid. I should have been center back. I could still start on like 14 of the 20 MLS teams right now at center back. So my caveat to this is, yes, that pass screwed me by a man that was not smart or good at his job. But at the same time, it might not have mattered in the end because I probably just wasn't good enough.
But do you think that the pass was it that sealed your fate with that team? Or do you think that it's a guy who just needs to justify a decision, so he pulls something out of his ass and mentions that later as being the thing? Like, because that's the one thing he can remember. It's a moment he remembers. So I kind of wondered if that wasn't the case.
No, that's what it was. It was just he didn't think I was good enough, and that was his justification, or the line in the sand, or however you want to describe it.
The coach is actually Schellis. Is that how you say his first name? Hindman. It's Emerson Hindman's grandpa, I believe. So that's
Emerson trained with us when he was like 15 or 16.
Did he really?
He was literally the smallest. He was so small and so frail. He's still small and frail, but imagine him
he's still tiny.
Imagine him 6 or 7 years ago. But he was really good, but we were all scared to touch him. Nobody would foul him. Nobody would yell at him until Zach Lloyd one day comes in and puts him from behind. You've never seen a practice go so quiet.
Breaking a child in half. Nice. So you get to Sweden and things are good again, it seems like, right?
Yeah, life. Yeah, I had life again, you could say.
What was it like, just the difference between playing here and playing in Europe?
Well, in MLS, I was the defensive mid whose job was to tackle and chase hard, and all of a sudden I was just. The story goes that literally they don't watch film, right? So one thing that's important to say about this move is that, and I think it's still true today, the MLS name just doesn't mean anything in the world market, right? MLS has come a long way, but MLS has just shot itself in the foot by not actively participating in the world market. And I thought to myself, we had literally just beaten or tied AIK. The second time I went over, we had just smashed BK Häcken, who are two of the biggest teams in Sweden, and these teams wouldn't give me a sniff. I'm like, I don't get it. We just beat you. But they just couldn't justify to their fans signing an MLS player. Right? So I ended up going to this small little team who had never even watched film on me. They just had heard I was a good leader, a good guy. And the coach didn't even know what position I played. So I showed up to practice. I scored.
This is professional soccer.
5 goals.
It's amazing.
This is the way the transfer market works, right? Like, I was free. Dallas wanted to – here's the thing. My MLS team wanted to keep me, right? They wanted to keep my rights. So they didn't want to trade me. They didn't want to outright cut me. They sent me on loan, and they paid my salary for 5 months when I wasn't even there just to keep me for the next year. And this team didn't watch film. I show up. I score like a bunch of goals in 5v5 just because I don't care, right? I have nothing to lose. Dallas is going to pick up my option. I go out for the first time in the last 2.5 years and just play free and have fun and just don't care about messing up, and I crush it. And before the first game, both center mids got hurt, including the attacking mid, and the coach texts me. He's like, "Hey, Bobby, can you play attacking mid?" I'm like, "Yeah, fuck, I can play attacking mid." It's my dream, dude. So I don't think I played a through ball in my 10 games, but I scored a lot of goals, which I will say I'm really good at. I could do the Frank Lampard job. I think about this a lot. I do wonder if an MLS team had played me as the Chris Wondolowski, if I could have scored 10 goals a season.
Would you have missed against Belgium?
Oh, why you gotta go there, man? Why you gotta go there?
I'm doing what your Dallas coach did. Yeah, it's Wando's been a great MLS player, but yeah, it's
to divulge, who's the player in this current crop of national team players that you want that shot? If we could have assumed 4 years ago it was Wando, I know he missed it, but you still would have wanted it to be Wando. Who's the player you want to have the shot in the 94th minute to score a goal?
Bobby Wood.
Of the forwards?
Anyone.
Well, no. This one, probably Clint Dempsey, but I'd put Bradley up there too. I mean, Bradley will score an ugly goal. Like he doesn't necessarily take pretty shots, but if it's got to be something dirty, messy, the box is full of guys, and then it's mud everywhere, whatever. Like I'd put it on two guys who'll put that ball in the back of the net.
Okay, it's a good shout.
I don't know. I like Bobby Wood.
And
I
Wood
just think
hits
it's an
big
important
goals.
question to ask ourselves. Like, as we pick numbers 21, 22, 23 for this, that to me is a very important question.
Oh, you're saying who's
the
coming off the
person?
bench to hit that in the 94th?
Yes, in general. Who would you take on that roster? Because you always get the opportunity. Here's what, talk about inefficient. I think there's so many inefficiencies in soccer, but this is one of them. You always get one more opportunity, right? Why don't we ever think about this? Who do you want that one more opportunity to fall to?
It's a good question. It's a good question.
And I think you're right. It's probably Dempsey and Bradley. But my point is, 4 years ago, it would have been Wando. Like, he missed, but you still would have wanted it to be him.
That ball was.
I don't know. I would have rather had Donovan there.
Yeah,
yeah,
I would have.
That's true. That's true.
Here's
one more name.
Go ahead.
Alan Gordon.
Oh fuck.
Alan Gordon probably would have hit that.
He should be on the roster, by the way. Or take just the biggest, strongest dude in the air. In the 80th minute, what does every game end up happening?
It's a
ball gets pumped into the box.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were terrible in the air in the Gold Cup too.
Yeah. Alan Gordon.
See, I always thought that Alan Gordon was on the roster because he played in LA, Jürgen lived in LA, and that's what Jürgen saw. So I would not put it past Jürgen to be that close-minded and just go, yes, him. But I can see what you're saying there. Yeah, it's we don't have a ton of guys like that. So
zero anonymity anymore says I would rather have a do.
Yeah, we should ask you about. We were talking about Landon. We should ask you about Landon.
I was going to bring something up about Freddie D later.
When Landon took his hiatus, that's the only other time I can ever remember a soccer player before your book like talking about being burnt out and needing a break and that sort of thing. And it did that mean anything to you when he did that?
Yeah, that meant the world. At the time when I was in MLS, maybe I just left MLS, there was definitely a sentiment of, screw this guy, who does he think he is, that he can do it. But deep down, I very much empathized. I think part of it was that we all wanted to do it, that we all needed a break. So outwardly, it was frustrating that we're all grinding away, feeling horrible every single – I shouldn't say feeling horrible, but just grinding away, and that he could do that and still come back. So there's definitely some animosity outwardly, but inwardly, I personally thought what he did was really cool and really brave. And the first time I can remember too.
It made me like him more. Like I was at a point in my life at that point too, where I was working in television news. I was fried as fuck and I hated it and I wanted to be done. And he did that at that point. I'm like, wow, that's, if he can walk away from that, I can do something different. So, but if you have questions for Bobby, fire away on the chat and we'll ask him. But there's one other story from your book. There's a couple. I don't want to give away the whole book. There's a couple other stories I want to talk about, but going to Israel, trying to land a job, you had to become. You're already like ethnically part Jewish, right? But you had to like become a Jew to go there, and then it's just like it's an insane running around toward the end of the transfer deadline trying to land a spot. You got to tell a little bit of this story for us.
Yeah, I really had nothing going at this point. I thought when I left Norway, I thought that I was going to get back into. Sorry, plugging in my phone real quick. So I thought I'd be in the. But I thought that I was going to get back in MLS. Aaron told me I would. Enough teams knew me. My value was still high enough. It didn't work out. So here I am come February. All the MLS rosters are full. I didn't really want to do NASL or USL. I just wasn't really stuck up my pride yet. And I get ready. I call up a new agent to go to Israel. And he's like, literally within 24 hours, yeah, we got it. We'll take you. You need to qualify as Jewish. And remember, my dad's Jewish, and I grew up – I'm definitely feel more Jewish than I do Israeli. Israeli than I do Christian, if that makes sense. But I'm still not Jewish. Like, I turned down the Maccabi games in college because I was like, shit, dude, like, that's too much for me. But, yeah, we essentially spent 10 days chasing all over the internet, all over Pennsylvania, essentially trying to make calls all over the country to somehow validate my Jewishness, which didn't really exist. Anyway.
And then you go over there, and it's like you're running between team and team. You get your agent's getting calls. You're
it's what you would expect from Israel. If you envision Israel, that's it.
Just absolute chaos.
Total chaos. And to his credit, though, after being so frustrated with my previous agent, to have him hustle so hard was amazing. And I'm super indebted to him. Leo and I are still close. I still try and throw players to him as often as possible. But yeah, we're over there, and the first team cancels the deal mid-flight. So here's the thing: they literally flew me from DC to Tel Aviv next day. I don't even know what that flight costs. I get there and they cancel the deal. I'm like, well, you guys already spent $2,500 on this. Like, what is? So they cancel the deal. I go to 2 more teams, and we literally show up, and I'm sitting there in the lobby just staring at my watch for 15 minutes, knowing the transfer deadline's coming, literally pen in hand, waiting to sign this contract. The guy shows up 2 minutes late, and the federation says no.
So then you're stuck there.
So,
That's insane.
well, then I had vacation there. I wouldn't say I was stuck. There's worse places.
That's pretty cool.
You guys ever been to Tel Aviv?
No.
No.
Best place in the world.
Really?
I mean, imagine
it looks cool.
New York. Imagine New York City with Malibu.
On a beach.
Yeah.
Right next to each other, and it's safe. Obviously, besides the things the occasional not safe, day in and day out, it's incredibly safe.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So I mean,
it's a great place to be.
Do you look back at that now as like a fun adventure, or do you look back at that now as like a failure?
No, super fun adventure.
Yeah.
I didn't want to go, right? I couldn't run at that time. Like I still had a base, probably what was turned out to be a torn fascia in my heel. I was heartbroken, right? Like I was still, you know what it feels like to be heartbroken. Basically just been dumped. I was so sad. I didn't want to leave the girl that my life was just kind of in disarray, and I didn't even know if I wanted to go. Like I think I was just as relieved as I was upset when the deal didn't work out.
Man. All right, guys, what do you got for Bobby? What kind of questions you got for him? I saw somebody asked earlier. Let's see if I can find it. Where does Fabian Johnson fit in? Where would you play him if you're Bruce Arena?
Well, what formation do you guys think Bruce will play?
I'm guessing 4-4-2. I mean, it's still Bruce. I know he has done the 3-5-2 at times. I think it's going to be 2 up top because I think Josie needs it. And I think absolutely Josie's one of the 2 starters at this point. I mean, at this point, I'd probably put Bobby Wood ahead of him, but I think by kind of the role he plays, Josie's too important to Bruce's plans. So I think you're going to see 2 up top regardless. I would have said that he was going to try and replicate kind of what he was doing with Bradley and Jermaine Jones, using either Acosta or maybe Sebastian Lletget as of a few months ago. Now, I don't know. I mean, like we said, maybe we got ahead of ourselves on Acosta. Maybe he just needs some more experience to kind of get some of that talent or heart back, some of that confidence in himself that he can play consistently. What happens when Lletget comes back? Does he come back at full strength and he looks
That's
good
the X
and maybe
factor,
he starts challenging?
Yeah.
That's a huge X factor is Lletget.
But it's just,
I mean, really, until he got that foot injury, like I think he was kind of the guy everyone was thinking, oh, this is the end of Jermaine Jones.
Well, it's definitely the end of Jermaine Jones.
yeah.
That we could...
Jermaine Jones is done one way or the other in the next 12 months. But
yeah,
I mean, I don't know. Like Bruce seems to have such an unbridled affection, or like an overdue affection for Jermaine Jones. Like he seems so in awe of his ability to, I don't know, still run as hard as he does and as much as he does at his age. I talk about him like he's younger than me.
I'm just so confused half the time when he's out there. And Bobby, maybe you can figure out what.
So is he. So is Jermaine. Yeah. So is Michael. Yeah. That's for damn sure.
Yeah,
Michael's definitely confused.
That's the problem. I mean, I think realistically, the best thing is if you're going to give someone that sort of 8 box-to-box kind of position, you need someone who you can kind of rein in. And that's always been the problem with Jermaine Jones. Like, he wants to be the star on the team. And
yeah,
it's not to say he's not talented. No, I mean he's good, and I like him. He seems to have like a good personality. I like that. You know, he's driven and he wants to represent the U.S. when he plays for us. But who the hell knows what? Like he just kind of goes wherever the ball goes. Like, oh, I'm playing forward now. I'm a defender. I'm on the left. I'm on the right. I'm like, you never know where the hell he's going to be.
Yeah.
And sure, if we're controlling the entire midfield, hey, okay, maybe there's the freedom to do that. You know, you saw Acosta get into some advanced spots, like in the final, the Gold Cup. But like at the time, we were controlling the midfield more. You know, there's so many games where we're not controlling the midfield completely because Jones is nowhere to be found. He's just kind of.
So many thoughts. So I'm a Jones hater. I shouldn't say I'm a Jones hater. I just don't, he doesn't work well with Bradley, right? And I've said
exactly.
That's it.
But when I will say I saw Jermaine Jones play live a couple of times in the playoffs last year when I was doing some MLS stuff, and he's a different beast to watch live.
Yeah,
to see that man on the field live is an incredible thing.
He's all over the place, which is a good and bad thing, I guess, at times. But so the Fabian question, I was
here's my.
Yeah, go ahead.
No. Well, I was just going to say, when you think about formation, think about this game tree real quick. It's our weakest position is winger, our strongest position is center back. If you want to try and get the best guys in the field, if you don't feel that Areola can win the World Cup game, or maybe Villafani can win the World Cup game, or Pontius, or if you want to play Pulisic, it's just if you go down the line, it feels like we're going to play a 3-5-2, and that fits perfectly with Fabian Johnson and Yedlin and Pulisic at the 10. And playing two forwards.
It definitely gives, their ability to play with the ball and speed.
Good point, yeah.
And here's the one thing Bruce said about the 3-5-2. I was at Azteca at the post-game press conference, and the one that stuck out at me was the fact that he just talked about how does Mexico like to play. They like to find those little gaps. They like to play in between the lines, to find the wingers tucking in, the 10s dropping off. And guess what? That's actually how every top team in the world plays right now. If we face Belgium, if we face – there's going to be at least one team in the group that plays that way, if not two. So if you line these pieces up, it just makes a lot of sense. Or maybe I'm just trying to sound smart. I don't know.
And
who are you calling then for as, say, kind of the center of that three at the back?
Cameron.
Yes.
Cameron Brooks. The question is,
I think we're all in agreement.
Depends whether it's Cameron Brooks, Omar. I mean, the third one is up in the air. But for the most part, we can agree that third one is better than whoever we have at winger.
By the way, there's an awesome story in the book about the first time you played against Jeff Cameron. I don't know if we need to tell the whole thing, but if you're a Jeff Cameron fan like I am, it kind of reinforces your belief that he's fucking great. So
everyone says that. Kalen Carr says that he's the best player. Everyone he played with in Houston, Stuart Holden, Ricardo Clark, he said Jeff Cameron's another level.
Yeah, I love that guy, and I mean, yeah, the 3-5-2 makes sense. I don't know that Villafani scares the shit out of me, and so if we go to a 3-5-2, maybe we don't need to use him on the left. So I think that may also solve that problem. And you know, widening that midfield like that, you've got Nagby, you've got guys who can probably do well there. So, and of course,
would love to see Nagby, Kellen again, and Bradley, those three with Pulisic under Wood. Here's the problem with Josie. Is that Josie's not a 9. We've just miscast him for 10 years now. Josie's a 10 who wants to float around and get the ball and play through. The dude just does not want to run near post. He does not want to grind with center backs. We do it and he's okay at it, but he's a floater. And you can't play Josie without somebody who's going to run behind.
Yeah,
I think why if you play Josie, you have to play Jordan instead of Wood, even though Wood's probably better than both of them, strangely.
That makes sense.
So anyway, I just feel like we have to figure out Josie because he's too bad too often.
Yeah, well, I think part of it is he has a little bit of the, like, I don't know, say Giazzi Zardes issue where it's like too often his first touch is 10 yards away and, you know, then he's playing catch up to go get it. And, yeah, he wants to be the playmaker, and it makes sense. But at the same time, either he's got to have better close control, and then he also has the problem of being so much bigger than so many of the defenders he plays against. He gets like these bullshit calls because he's next to somebody. I don't know. He's too good to not have out there, but he's not good enough to be the guy he wants to be. Maybe.
Can we give you a thought to that? If you watch, most of his bad touches, though, are when his back is to the goal with the defender on him, which to me says it's not as much about his feet as it is his balance. That's a skill set all on its own. Being able to take the ball, hold off a defender with one side of your body, receive the ball with the other. Because when I see Josie in the middle of the field, I actually think he has super soft feet. Receiving the ball, manipulating the ball. So that's one of the other reasons that I just don't think he's a 9. So you're right. It's definitely ugly at times, but most of the time, to me, it's when he's trying to hold somebody up, which is it's a holding up skill, not the receiving skill.
What else?
We just have to figure out the jersey
I like
conundrum.
the idea that it could be a balance thing. No, that's interesting.
Douglas says Freddie Adu.
As someone who's tried to do that, as someone who's tried to hold off defenders, it's unlike anything I've ever tried to do in soccer. Trying to be that target guy holding up center backs. I've never experienced anything like it. And it's for me, it was the hardest thing I'd ever tried to do. It was the thing I was worst at. I should say,
different than everything else you do in the game. Like I can definitely see that's a very specialized thing. So yeah, who's good at that on our team? It seems like who's good at that and who's willing to do that job, just occupying a center back all day and working hard where you're not maybe going to score, but you're going to create openings for other people. I feel like Bobby would do that if we wanted him to. I don't obviously Clint doesn't seem terribly interested in doing it. He did it in one of the Gold Cup games. And then was that the one where he got subbed off and got pissed? I can't remember now. I'm getting mixed up.
Games. That was awesome.
He was also subbed off in Denver and got pissed.
Even if Wood did it, though, like he's so fast, you don't want to take away his ability to run. So even if you could say, yeah, he could do it. I mean, to me, that's sort of like going, well, if Bradley's best position is, say, as like a defensive midfielder, but hey, we don't have anybody who can play in the attacking midfield position, so we're going to stick him there, which was really, I mean, I think that was Klinsmann's idea. It just was.
It was like Bobby in Sweden. Fuck yes, I can play there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's for what it's worth, I actually think Bradley could be a very good. I'm super vocal about the 10 has changed. I think Bradley's the kind of guy that could do it perfectly if he had a coach to actually help him with it. But let's break down.
I thought that's why he was moving to MLS. I thought he was coming back to MLS to do that. Because that's clearly what Klinsmann wanted him to do it. And my statement about it was he is the only guy in this team who could do that at the time. Like, seriously, that's not what Dempsey does. Donovan was.
What is that?
Near like, what does that mean? Kind of that number 10, that like offensive.
What do we want out of our 10?
I think mostly to be a playmaker. I don't think we want the Messi style of it. We want the Colombian.
Well, I mean, aren't we seeing more of those guys pushing out wide anyway?
That's why you're the Otso fan. That's why you're reading the Otso book, right? You like that Otso movement. Here's my thing with the 10, right? It's how many goals are we really scoring really anywhere in the world, more or less, with American players on sick through balls or nice chip passes. Soccer goals are scored through industry and second balls and good runs and efficiency. The idea of having a player break open a game, especially for the first 70, 75 minutes, is so rare. And we're beating our heads to find a guy that I just don't think we need. We're trying to we're both trying to find a round peg for a square hole when we neither want the square hole or the round peg, if that makes sense. So that's my thought. I mean, the 10 to me now is a defensive midfielder, right? That spot is so clogged with the 4-2-3-1 or the 3-5-2 that guy doesn't have room to play make anyway. So let's just grind in there and play the guy deeper in the field who can actually hit those passes.
That's not a bad point.
That's my rant about the 10. I tell that to anybody that'll listen about the 10, by the way.
And in that case, like what I wasn't thinking James, I was thinking Carlos Valderrama.
Oh, okay.
In terms of, like a guy who kind of takes the whole center of the field, and he is spraying those balls wherever. He's playing the through balls. He's seeing the guy making the run and then cutting between the lines, or he's seeing the 40-yard ball over the top that that's beating the defender, on the angle, like from the wing. And in that regard, that is, I think, what Bradley's probably our best example of to this point.
If we were to get advanced in a World Cup, we'll say to a quarterfinal, where do our goals come from? Where do we hang our hat and say this is how we're going to produce goals?
I think most of the time it's free kicks.
That's right. Well, this is what we have to think about, right? Like, when you think about a holistic view of the team, do the goals come from through balls? And if the answer is no, then we don't even think about the through balls in that final pass. If it truly is set pieces, it's actually I had a friend, you guys know Daryl Morey for the Houston Rockets?
We don't know.
No.
The GM. Basically, he's a stats guy. And they're my friend's auditioning interviewing to work for the Houston Rockets. And the guy's like, you're a soccer fan. What do you think of soccer? And they talk soccer. And Daryl Morey goes, I've run the numbers. Here's what I don't get about soccer. Why doesn't everyone just play for fouls all the time? It was the truest damn thing I ever heard. But here's what I'm trying to say. It's if we're not going to score on through balls, then let's not play someone that goes on through balls. We just have to think about it in an overall approach that if we're not going to score that way, then bag it. Right? If we're going to score from getting the ball wide and having Pulisic beat somebody, then play Kelly Costa at the 10 for the second runs. Do you get what I'm saying? That's just my whole thing with the 10. It's like we're asking a guy to do something that we're not actually asking him to do anyway.
Yeah, that's fair. And it seems like Bruce has kind of gone away from that lately anyway. So it seems like he may be on kind of the same page that you are. He did play Pulisic there, but in the Gold Cup, some of his lineups, it seemed like that area of the field was kind of vacant. He had Nagby drifting in there sometimes, but Nagby's obviously
I love
very
Parchman.
good.
Will Parchman.
Go ahead. Yeah.
I love Will Parchman. He talks about this all the time on Twitter, but about how he's like, oh, how is that space vacant? How is this? Part of the reason that space is vacant is because the other teams had two fucking guys there the whole time. Right? Like every team in the world plays a block there. They have two center backs and this is like the 4-2-3-1 is not the 4-3-3 because the defensive midfielder's job is literally not to leave the width of the 6-yard box. I mean, that's what you tell a professional defensive mid. You do not go outside the 6-yard box. Right? It's like, why do we not get the ball in there? Because there's 15 guys in there. So it's not inherently bad that we're not getting to that spot. Maybe it's good to have our best players not in there. If we have Christian Pulisic on the field, maybe we don't want him there anyway because he's going to have 5 people around him. So I just think we're too quick to, I don't know, to think these generalizations without thinking the next step.
If we're going to do that, then if we're going to create offense wider through crossing and stuff like that, we need to find guys who can cross.
That's like the truth.
I like Paulo Viola, but some of his crosses were just.
God, his crosses were horrendous in the Gold Cup.
It's spot on. Yeah, crossing's horrible around the game. You know who's best at is Panes.
I'll have to.
Panes is our best crosser.
I'll have to look at that.
I think if he could earn more time on the field, maybe you could say that, but that maybe that would mean something. But I think until that happens, you can be the best crosser on paper, but I think unless you're on the field,
it's true.
I don't see him making a difference.
He just has 5 or 6 goals for Philly this year, assists for Philly, where he just picked up his head, he chipped the ball, he played it back, he actually tries to make a pass instead of just kicking it hard into the box.
All right,
yeah, we definitely need something like that. I mean, we definitely lack someone who is actually looking to pick out a player, or someone like running into the space, like somewhere into the box. We're just kind of booting the ball to, I don't know, like the penalty area or the 6-yard box or something to hope that it hits somebody.
All right, guys, one more good question for Bobby.
The box?
What's that?
Okay. I was going to ask if you guys had any outside the box ideas like that. How I'm like anti the number 10. Not anti. Do you guys have any like weird things that you're kind of embarrassed to say? But
oh God, put me on the spot like that. I don't know that I can come up with one. I'm sure I do though. I say a lot of stuff on this show. Sometimes it's dumb and sometimes it's smart. So
it's mostly dumb.
I know, but what are you going to do? Chris, what about you? Do you have anything that's
I was trying to think what I have that's like really crazy. I mean, it used to be that I was in favor of Bradley becoming our 10.
Okay, that's a good one.
I I think he's lost a step. I think he's just never kind of been the same player since he hurt his foot in whatever that early 2014. But until then, like my feeling was 2009, I was already like, give this kid the captaincy. He is the heart of this team. I used to always say that when Dempsey plays well, we score. When Bradley plays well, we don't lose. When Donovan plays well, we win. And if you can get all three of those together, we have the chance to beat anyone. But the problem was you had to get all three of them like doing their thing together at the same time, and it was hard to do. I mean, my feeling was, I think if Donovan had been like 2 or 3 years younger, I think Bradley would have been a fucking revelation to him because it would have taken some of that heat off him. Like even I think part of the reason he went on that sabbatical was I don't think his problem was he couldn't handle, like he didn't have the personality to handle kind of the pressure of being U.S. soccer. Like you are the face, U.S. soccer, MLS. Like you are the face, the embodiment, everything you represent. You are the physical representation of it to like everyone in the country, maybe if not the world. And nobody else knew who the hell another player was. Bradley was there to take some of that heat off. I think had he not gotten injured I can't remember now if it was late 2013, if it was early 2014 when he got that foot injury. To me, he was all the people were like, oh, Bob Bradley's son, whatever. No, he earned that spot. Like he was kicking ass on that team. He was doing shit that he was the reason Donovan had the freedom to create. He was the reason then that Dempsey had the freedom to score. I think he could have been our number 10. My hope was that when he was moving back when he was coming to MLS, to Toronto, my hope was that he's coming here to take over like that 10 spot and sort of become that playmaker. Like this is going to be his full-time role now because he doesn't have the competition that he had playing in Italy. Like no, he's never going to be, the playmaker on some Serie A team that they can spend 50 million euros and bring in whoever the hot new name is.
Right.
I don't know. Now I'm rambling. I maybe
no, that's good.
Maybe
that
I
was
had an
awesome.
idea in the beginning, but
love hearing that stuff.
Somebody just asked, and this is a good one. This is maybe a good one to wrap on. Did Michael Bradley suffer in his national team career, just his ability in general by coming back here and getting paid to play for Toronto? What do you think? That's always been the rap that he's just not as good as he was when he played in Europe. Is that a natural decline like in his career, or did he actually suffer by coming back here?
So this is one thing I never made it. Go ahead. You go first.
No, I was going to say, I think he's changed. And you can make the argument that it's that he's, stopped growing or whatever. I think he's changed as a player. And some of it may be that he's gotten older and slower, or just that he's become more savvy to things. Like before, he was much more willing to like rush into an attack. You don't see him dribble around guys anymore, or really even attempt much dribbling. Like last night at the Men in Blazers show, he was like, "Yeah, I'm not a dribbler." He at least attempted to be 10 years ago. These days, no. I mean, he takes a couple dribbles. Maybe he gets some pressure, he turns around and he lays it off. He doesn't. I think, try to push the attack as much himself. Now, some of that I think is he's also adopted a different kind of role. He no longer, maybe he's understood now that I don't have to do everything. I'm here to play a role, and my role is take care of this part. Take care of essentially the one edge of the 18 to one edge of the 18 for not quite box to box, but a little bit box to box, depending on kind of who he's playing with. He's there to kind of lock that area down. And I don't know. Now I'm getting ahead of what the hell I was thinking. So now I've forgotten what the rest whatever else I was going to say. My point was just I think he's changed as kind of a player. I guess that.
All right, go ahead, Bobby. You've said enough, Chris. You've done enough damage here.
I'm super sentimental towards Michael Bradley because he's the better version of myself. And I also I never made $8 million. I moved from Roma to TFC, but I did the same thing, right? I went from Dallas to a smaller team where I was the highest paid player. I was the most important guy. And so I know his emotional pain. And here's the problem with Bradley right now. I'm actually going to take the opposite of Chris, that he's not trying to do do a smaller role, he's trying to do too much mentally and emotionally. That now he's the main guy. Make no mistake, he's the main coach on that Toronto team. Vanny's doing a decent job. But Bradley's calling the shots, and he just has too much going on in his head. When he was at Roma, he was scared, he was nervous, and it just made him to play instinctively. He got it, he gave it. Like you said, if he dribbled, he didn't think about it. Every single thing that happened in Dallas, both on his plays and everyone else's, he's thinking about. And with Klinsmann, it was the same thing. He was so stressed, so involved in everything that took place that it hurt his play on the field. The best thing that happened for Michael Bradley in American soccer is for Greg Vanny or Bruce Arena to bench Brett Michael. I mean, dude, take the pressure off his shoulder. Say, chill out, bro. Get on and take the pressure off him. So then it's only Michael worrying about Michael. Because God bless the guy. What's great about him is that he cares. He wants to help in everything, but he's just not playing as well with all those thoughts in his head. So that's my
definitely. You can definitely tell when he doesn't trust the guys behind him, because he ends up playing so deep. He ends up he's deeper than our center backs coming back to get the ball. Like they're passing backwards to him, which is just creating too much space, and then he can't make the next pass. Yeah. I think you're right there that he does carry too much weight on his shoulders. And maybe, I've said before, maybe it's a little bit like Donovan in 2006 when everyone was giving him so much shit of, Landy Cakes, he sucks. Well, it wasn't that he sucked. It was that he was carrying too much pressure from the team. And to some extent, since he moved on, I think it was already Bradley's team, but I think it's become, all the pressure on him. He doesn't have the same kind of he's not the face of U.S. soccer in the same way that Donovan was, but he definitely carries kind of the weight or the pressure of the team's outcome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
But is there something?
I could see where that definitely weighs on him.
He's got a family, and maybe he likes taking the big paycheck, and maybe he likes his family living in Toronto instead of Rome. Does off the field happiness ever translate to anything on the field, Bobby, or does that have nothing?
Not for the Bradleys, dude. Not for the Bradleys. Those men machines. Michael also, for the record, he would have taken less money to play in Champions League. There weren't any teams at that time, and then they offered him $8 million.
Yeah,
so it's not that he was dying to get the money. I mean, this was not a dude cashing in. And this is a guy who waited for a great opportunity, and at that point, you take the $8 million. Does life off the field matter? Really, not for Michael Bradley. It's weird to say because for most guys it does. Most guys, that's a holistic thing about your life. But Mike and Bob are fucking machines, dude.
They are the robots we think they are.
They are, more so. Which is right. It's both their biggest blessing and their biggest curse. Like anybody with that disease, you could say.
All right, I think we wrap it there.
He's the closest thing we have to Ronaldo, then.
Yeah,
at least in that regard.
This is USFanTV. The website's USFanTV.com. We have Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. They're all USFanTV. We don't like Snapchat, so we don't do that. Subscribe to us on YouTube if you haven't. Thank you to everybody who has. Bobby Warshaw has a book that you should read called When the Dream Became Reality. Bobby, tell everybody, where can you buy this book?
WhenTheDreamBecameReality.com is where they all are, but you can get it on Amazon, on Nook, on iBooks, anywhere you buy books online. Things called Draft 2 Digital. There's so many I didn't even know about, but it's pretty much anywhere.
Can you buy an actual physical copy of the book too?
Yes, Amazon is paperback, and I meant to have hardcover. It just has taken a month longer than I expected.
So hardcover's coming?
Hardcover is coming. Yes.
It's going to be a leather-bound book.
It's really sad. It's really stressful to think about, but there's a paperback out there on Amazon.
All right, so that's good for people.
Which right now is 20% off.
Your home will smell of rich mahogany and personal leather-bound books.
I'm back. I've been doing a lot of work in New York, so when I'm in between New York, I come back to my parents in Harrisburg. Nice. So this is mommy and daddy. It's nice to be back for the night. We had to put the house phone off the hook, actually, so it didn't ring.
Nice. My parents finally got rid of the house phone 6 months ago or something. It was I'm like, nobody calls on this anymore. Just go with the cell.
You don't call it accidentally? Just like muscle memory? You don't just dial it in?
No, I took it out of my phone. So I hit dad or I hit mom, whichever one I want to talk to now. But yeah, they finally realized, I'm like, you don't need this anymore. Just get rid of it. So, all right. We do the final words section. Chris, you go first, then I'll let Bobby go. Chris, do you have any final words?
We should note the U.S. women, I guess you could say, defeated Brazil the other day, 4-3. Terrible game until about the last 15 minutes. I kind of wonder if Jill Ellis is the new Jürgen Klinsmann. Maybe something about coaches with J's in their first name. I don't know. Non-hat guy equals Chris. Yes, I am Chris. Anonymity. No, zero anonymity anymore. Yeah, beyond that, I think I've got yes. All right. I forgot. I set my notes aside behind my computer, and I forgot some things.
This
So,
is my
Bob,
favorite
you've
thing
talked
about your
about
show.
how
Your show is no. I love it. You guys just go. There's like no stressing about a
We
schedule.
used to do
That's my
like
favorite thing about your show.
We used to do like extensive notes, and I did a little bit more because you were going to be on. But sometimes we have so many people commenting that you could just stop, look, grab a question, and keep going. Especially during
as we say, like this is shit like Pat and I used to do for like we've been doing this for years just amongst ourselves. Sometimes with our other friend TJ, who I grew up with TJ, and like even when he agrees with you, he'll argue with you. So sometimes we just bring him on to like argue amongst ourselves. But so yeah, TJ, if you're watching, there's your shout out. Anyway, Bobby, so you've talked about how you just need one coach to believe in you.
Yeah.
An old teammate of yours, a certain left-foot player who has been with the national team before, but I'm really unable to kind of keep a spot locked down. Do you think Breck Shea just needs a coach to believe in him, or because I mean, he has the talent, he just never kind of seems to put it all together so that you get the end product.
Weird? Is he as weird as we think he is?
Now we're getting into questions you probably want to answer, right?
Yes, he is. Yes, he is. He has a big heart. I got a special place in my heart for Breck. Breck needs to believe in himself first. I actually think that he fits in that Carl Robinson system. Jason Christ didn't fit in that system. Breck needs to believe in himself. He's low on confidence. Guys like that are fast, big, strong, skillful players. They're confidence-based players. So, Breck needs to believe in himself first and just get that confidence back.
Nice. All right.
I mention it because, we do have this. I don't know. Villafana hasn't been settling anyone's mind lately on a left back. So we do kind of have some left-sided openings. Yeah.
Yeah, I said that in 2011 he should be a left back.
It wasn't terrible in several instances when Klinsmann did it. I just think Klinsmann had such a terrible time determining who the lineup should be, especially the defenders. It's like, oh, well, today it's 4 guys, so tomorrow it's 4 new guys. Next time it's 4 new. Like, there was no consistency. So it was like having 11 strangers out there. Like, nobody knew where the hell anybody else was. You couldn't just turn and lay a pass off because you didn't know where the hell the next guy was. I don't know. Anyway, another player I'll say, since some people have been bringing him up, Freddie Adu with yet another trial. This one now compared to a vacuum cleaner, I guess. Does he just need a coach to believe in him, or does he, I hate to say it, just need to give up and kind of hang it up?
I don't know. I'm not. This is one this is giving Freddie credit for persevering, right? Would you guys ever go through as many job interviews?
Yeah.
Yeah, aren't you guys the same age? Like, that's crazy to think about.
Sprite money still
he's 2 months younger than me.
Is he really? Like, that's insane. Like, Freddie seems like Freddie seems like he's 35
I've heard from people
at
that have
this
played
point.
with Freddie. It's true. It sounds like he actually just isn't. He hasn't put in the work. I don't know about the last 12 or 13 months, but when I last heard about people training with Freddie, that he wasn't fit enough. So that one might be on him.
I feel like we collectively destroyed that kid's mind when he was young by just by MLS
I
playing.
just wonder about him. Like, is that Sprite money or whatever it was who was sponsoring him like a 15? Is that still paying off? Because where the hell is he getting paid? You do a trial here and there. Like how are you making money anywhere?
Yeah. He's not. That's why he's trying right now.
Yeah. Well,
you think he wants to be in Poland right now?
I know.
Dude, yeah, training little kids. I don't know.
All right, Bobby, any final words?
Anyway, yeah.
My only final words, I think what you guys do is awesome.
I don't know about that.
Such a cool part of American soccer culture.
That's maybe going a little too
you guys
far.
have been doing for a while is awesome.
That's awesome. We appreciate that. Thank you. So yeah, we do these shows Tuesday nights and Thursday nights. It is Tuesday night, so we'll see you back here Thursday night. Bobby, thank you for coming on. And go buy his book, When the Dream Became Reality. You can buy it at whenthedreambecamereality.com, or you could Google it, or you could find it wherever books are sold on the internet. Bobby, thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much for having us.
Yeah, please join us anytime. Thank you.
Chris,
Thanks.
I guess I'll thank you too, but I don't really need to. All right. See you guys. You're done.